The platform we are using is called SharePoint for a reason. Its primary purpose is to allow us to more easily share information. This doesn't only include needing to go to each individual site, list, and library. After all, that would be really cumbersome. One of SharePoint's many benefits is allowing us to share information between all of those sites and our My Site. One example of that is new in 2013. It's the ability to view tasks assigned to you from any SharePoint site from within your My Site. We have to understand a few foundational things. First of all, any kind of task list that you ever work with includes an assigned to field. The person to whom the task is assigned, the one who's supposed to do the work, is listed in this field. In order to keep track of all of the task assignments, a person might need to navigate to and review numerous different task lists, possibly from multiple locations. Tasks assigned to you from any SharePoint task list, from Exchange or Outlook, or even from Microsoft Project task lists, are automatically aggregated and appear in My Tasks on your My Site. The aggregation actually happens via a brand new shared service or application called Work Management. That really isn't an important detail. I just think it's interesting to know. What is important to know is that My Task display can be personalized by using My Task settings. Viewing My Task centralizes all the task assignments that you have in a single location, making them easier to track and monitor, saving you time and effort. And that's what it's all about. So let's take a look and see how we find My Tasks in our My Site. If you access the About Me page or anything really on your My Site, we know that on the left-hand side, we'll be able to see a variety of the options that we have for working with My Site content. In this list, we're familiar with the newsfeed, About Me, haven't really worked with the blog yet, or apps, but at the very bottom of this list, there's a link for tasks. If we give that a click or a tap, it displays My Tasks with the default settings. We're not going to spend any time here talking about how we actually create tasks. That's part of another video. We just want to talk specifically about the My Tasks page and what it can do for us. So this is not very interesting because there's not a whole lot of work that's been assigned to Michael yet, but we can see that there has been a single entry for Send Insurance Claim to Adjuster. Now this was actually created by Michael on this page. And that can be done very simply by just clicking and typing to create a new task. The aggregation, or all of those other tasks that are assigned in Microsoft Project, in Outlook or Exchange, or in SharePoint task lists, will happen automatically. We don't have to do anything to have that happen. They simply will all show up here. So you don't have to do anything to make this work, but you can modify what is displayed to suit your preferences. Once you have the task displayed and the My Tasks page displayed, we simply need to find out how to do that. Well, as we're used to with SharePoint 2013, we know that we can filter or narrow down the views by simply using headings at the top of the page. We can click or tap to see important and upcoming tasks, to see active tasks, even to see recently added tasks, and we can even search or find a task. In order to get to the settings, though, we need to use the ribbon, and that means moving to the very top left side of the screen, where you should see a Tasks tab. Giving this a click or a tap displays the ribbon with all of the options that we have for working with tasks, including creating a new task, marking a selected task as complete, marking a selected task as important, something called adding it to the timeline, which we'll talk about when we discuss views for lists, as well as editing, renaming, and deleting tasks. Right now, we're actually interested in the settings for the entire list. So we're going to click or tap on the settings option. This displays the setting page for My Tasks. Because task lists are such a personal thing, here we can designate exactly how we want them to work for us. First of all, you can designate the old task limit. In other words, only show tasks that have been changed within the last how many months. Do you really want to see tasks that are 2 years old? If not, you can change this. Maybe a year is long enough, so we'll put in 12 months. You can also decide which upcoming tasks you want to show. There are 2 parts to this setting. The first is asking if you want to see tasks that are past due, and if so, past due up to how many days ago. The default is 14 days. The second option is if you want to see tasks that are due in the future, after today, and again, if so, how many days in the future. The default for this field is 30 days. This can be a little confusing, so if we make a couple changes, we can designate that we want to display any tasks that have not been marked complete that were due as far back as 7 days ago, but no further than that, or will be due anytime in the next 14 days, but no further into the future. Hopefully, that makes a little bit more sense than the words that they put right on the form. In most task lists, we also have the ability to mark a task as highly important. We can have SharePoint help us mark that importance. In this case, automatically clear the importance from the task if it's been marked as important for more than the following number of days, and that happens to be 14. In other words, if something's been marked for 14 days and it's really important, it probably isn't really important anymore. And so we'll automatically demote that, if you will, making it less important, so we don't have our list filled up with things that all seem like they're highly important. We can also indicate the number of days a task will stay in the recently added view. The default is only 1. Now, if you don't go in and look at your My Tasks very often, you might want to bump that up and maybe say anything that was added this work week or in the last 5 days is still considered new. I'll scroll down just a little bit so we can see things here a little more clearly as we get to the bottom of the list. These include settings for the timeline. By default, the timeline only shows 7 days. That can be adjusted, and the end date, the number of days after today's date, is set for a total of 21. So the timeline by default is set for basically 1 to 3 weeks. Lastly, you will have an opportunity to filter your different lists from all of the different locations from which they came. This is kind of a nice little check mark that says if I don't have any tasks for a particular project or for a particular list, go ahead and hide that. Don't clog up my filter list. Only show me filters that actually have content in them. The default here is to hide anything that doesn't have anything for the last 3 months. The very last one will often say you don't have any tasks from projects right now. If you do get tasks for projects, then you'll see some options here that let you designate how you want to arrange your projects in the timeline. Until that time, it just tells you that right now it's not an appropriate choice. So there you go. They're all fairly simple and fairly straightforward. I'm not sure that any of them are really critical, but they do determine how things are going to display in your My Task list, and having it customized can certainly be a nice feature. When we get those set the way that we think we want them, we can click Save either at the bottom right or the top right of the screen. This saves the settings and brings us back into My Tasks. My Tasks is now configured to show tasks from any of those sources that Microsoft has, all in one consolidated place. And that's going to be a huge help and a huge time saver. What you now know is that everyone has work or tasks that need to be completed. SharePoint provides a platform for collaborating to accomplish common goals. Task lists provide a centralized, common place in which to store and monitor tasks for a team or group, department, or even an entire organization. Tasks assigned to a person using a SharePoint task list or as their own personal tasks can be tracked from their My Site. The My Task feature in a My Site lists all the tasks assigned to a person so they can be monitored from that one single central location. And that includes not only SharePoint, but also Microsoft Project, Exchange, and Outlook. And maybe most importantly, don't forget that like so much of SharePoint and My Site, My Tasks can be personalized with settings that display and treat tasks as you need them to be from the settings option in the ribbon of the My Tasks page.